Shabbat Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And I'm going to start with the scripture. This is the book of Luke. (8 and 17). And it reads, "For nothing secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad." All right, let's go to its precept also in Luke. And it reads, Luke 12 and 2, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known." And right now, America's on the verge of martial law. These events that are taking place are without a shadow of a doubt being orchestrated. They're not organic. They hardly, ever are. This is not an organic thing at all. This was a completely orchestrated, paid for, controlled. Although I have not personally seen the evidence of the bricks being set up, I have heard from people who are usually credible when they speak on it, that they already had pallets of bricks that were pre-set up before the events even kicked off. And with that, you also have your agent provocateurs. I'm willing to bet that there's a list of employment for people to participate in events in the LA area, in the Minneapolis area, in the New York area on the date of June 8th, 9th, and whatever. You'll probably find it on Craigslist somewhere, as you often do. But it's like the men of the Lord have been telling you these things all along. So whether they be organic or orchestrated, and more likely they'll be orchestrated and then they'll turn into self-perpetuating organic riots. That is coming. Because they keep poking, you keep poking a bear, eventually it's going to lash out at you. Keep poking a dog, eventually it will bite at you. And that is exactly what is happening. So I want to play a couple videos. Actually, I got 3 videos that I'd like to play from my undercover journalist, April O'Neil, the water yet again, beloved. And but this is right on time, because this is what I've been saying for quite some time now. That any statute, any executive order that goes in contrary to the supreme law of the land, all right, is not law at all. You cannot. Matter of fact, let me get that receipt before I play the video. Let me find it. Let's go to the evidence folder. Let me find that law. That's a good one too, but that's not the one that I want. Here it is. And I'll put it before the camera too. Well, no, I'll just read it. All right, the law of the land. It says, "The general misconception is that any statute passed by legislators bearing the appearance of law constitutes the law of the land," like what the president just did. All right. The states have laws, and then you have federal law, and then you have state law. Both must coordinate or be in harmony, must be in a harmonious union with the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. All right, remember that. Because as much as they're complaining about what Trump just did, the states did it, and they all did it with the mandates, with the whole C-19 thing and all that madness. They were violating the Constitution with that and whole other things. But nevertheless, I digress. Let me continue. The general misconception is that any statute passed by the legislators bearing the appearance of law constitute the law of the land. All right, Title 4D child support is one of those things. It's not lawful at all, yet it's enforced. All right, the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. All right, this succinctly stated as follows: all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. All right, and then the case law is Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 2 Cranch 137, 174, 176 from 1803. Anything that you do, any statute, any executive order has to be in alignment with the supreme law of the land. If it is not, then that is not really law at all. That is somebody just acting as a form of a dictator, or they're doing something to line their pockets, like creating a medical emergency or any type of emergency. Okay? So, that being said, let's go to the first video, which is about a little over 2 minutes long. So here we go.
Well, take the whole immigration side out of this, because some of y'all can't get over the whole immigration side of it. I need y'all to understand what is happening right now. Against the wishes of the governor of California, the president of the United States has federalized National Guard troops to put down a protest in California against what the governor has directly asked him to do. This is not one of the biggest protests we've ever seen. This is not some major protest. There is nothing to warrant this level of escalation, and we have never seen something like this in modern American history to do this against the wishes of the governor. This is a dangerous precedent to let be set. I need y'all to look past the immigration side of this and understand what is going on. The president is deploying military forces to put down a protest. That is what he is doing. And if that is allowed to become the precedent...
Let me pause it. And that is in violation of the law of the land. All right? You cannot, I think it's called the posse comitatus. You cannot put U.S. troops against U.S. citizens. All right? And what they're probably going to do, they're going to get called on this, and this thing will probably kind of tone down a little bit, maybe. And what they'll finally do is they'll bring in all those foreign troops that are already here. That's probably what's going to happen. Because you're more than likely, you're going to get U.S. soldiers that are going to stand down and use the UCMJ and say that this is an unlawful order. You finally may get some military leaders that have some balls and stand up to support the law of the land, which will help further this civil war. But here we go.
And if we do not protest this now and call this out and condemn this, if this is allowed to be set in stone, this will happen again. And the requirements and that threshold gets lower and lower every time it happens, until it becomes the norm that anytime there is a protest, the military gets sent in. And do you know what type of government you get to? When the military gets stepped in, anytime there's a protest, think about what type of government that is. Let's just say we have invaded countries that have gotten to that kind of government before. And we are now perpetuating that exact thing here in the United States. Nothing about this. I don't care about the immigration side of it. That is a red herring that doesn't matter. The truth of what is going on is that the president of the United States is currently using military forces as a policing activity against the will of the governor of that state. This will happen again if it...
And what you have to understand is that now you become the Hunger Games. If you watch any of the Hunger Games movies, you watch the military come in and ruthlessly totalitarianize, all right, with totalitarian government, rule over the people, very violently. And that's exactly where we're headed.
Is allowed to become precedent, and that requirement, that threshold, like I said, it gets lower and lower and lower every time. And you may think it doesn't matter now. What if something happens that you don't like? All right, think this is, the government should never be using military forces to stop people from expressing a First Amendment right to freedom of speech and freedom of protest. I don't care that there has been some violence in the protest. None of that justifies this level of escalation that we have now seen out of the federal government. This is a dangerous thing to do, and it is going to get even worse soon.
Yeah, because they definitely have enough law enforcement to do that. So the calling in of the military is an obvious, like you said, a red herring. Because they want to, and it seems that Trump wants racial violence and separation anyway. He wants that. But let's go to back to the scriptures real quick. This is Isaiah 29:15, because Esau keeps trying to hide his wicked plans, but he can't. And it reads, "Woe to them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us?" So they, and then you have the average American citizen is really stupid collectively. They don't really have, they can't think for themselves. America doesn't educate people and indoctrinates people. And they form people into good followers and good workers. They don't want a country, as a famous comedian said before he died, very mysteriously if you ask me. But he said it does not benefit the federal government, or any government for that matter, to have a nation full of critical thinkers. They don't want that. They don't want you asking questions. All right, they just want you to, when they say jump, you say how high. All right, as simple as that. So let's go to the next video. With this very masculine former soldier, or 1st Cavalry girl. If she actually let her hair grow, she probably would be cute. She looks like she's Northern Kingdom. But let's hear what she's got to say.
To every National Guardsman with a spine and a soul, if you're being ordered to deploy into Los Angeles or any other city under any directive tied to a self-declared national emergency, read your UCMJ section 90 through 92. You sworn...
So, and I got a feeling that this woman was or is an officer. And she's specifically talking to military. All right? I mean, she wants the civilian population to hear it as well, but this is a message directly to the military. And you best believe there are people in the military who are ready to, who feels like the Constitution is being trampled over it, and they're ready to put it back in place. I won't say any more than that.
Oath, not to a man, not to a party, and certainly not to a fascist cult masquerading as the official governance. You swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. An order is only lawful if it aligns with the Constitution, federal law, and the lawful chain of command.
Exactly.
A president under criminal conviction who clawed back power through systematic manipulation and incitement of sedition represents, by definition, a constitutional crisis, not a lawful administration. Deploying troops without consent of the state, especially under a hostile executive agenda, is not national defense. It is called federal aggression. If you are ordered to turn your weapon on our citizens, your presence or your silence against said citizens in any capacity violates constitutional boundaries. That is an unlawful order. Under Article 92 of the UCMJ, your legal and moral duty and obligation is to refuse those orders. Not hesitate, not to defer, not to wait and see. To refuse. You become part of the very domestic enemies your oath warned you about.
Yep.
You will not be able to hide behind "I was just taking orders." This is about the Constitution, state sovereignty, and the rule of law. Uphold your oath, because history is watching.
At the end of the video, she puts on, so she's since retired now, this woman, because she put on her veteran hat. And I'm willing to bet this woman was an officer in the military. She might have even been a military lawyer. All right, she knew the law a little bit too well, more so than an average, military person. She was quoting statutes and codes down to the comma, to the period. But what that's telling you is that the division is real. Let's get that. This is Mark 3 and 25. I'm sorry, 23. And it reads, and he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against Satan and be divided, it cannot stand but have an end. Salakia. And ultimately, it's Yahweh who's putting this spirit on these men to do this, which is going to lead them to pew each other. White males and anyone who stands with them about to pew each other here in America, in Babylon. This is Isaiah, a couple more scriptures. Isaiah 19 and 1. And it reads, the burden of Egypt, behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. So we know that, according to scripture and prophecy, that when the Lord shows up in those chariots that they've been on television calling UAPs and UFOs, when they finally reveal themselves to the point to where there's no denying who and what they are, and while they're here, this is going to be happening here on earth. The Lord said when he comes, the fires will already be kindled. All right? Isaiah 19 and 2. And it reads, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, and they shall fight everyone against, and everyone shall, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to wizards. But none of that's going to help them. All right, the government is going to fail. All that left-hand side wizardry and witchcraft is going to fail. And in the middle of them pewing each other and droning each other and whatever else the hell is going on, the Lord is going to show up. And then all the nations of the world are going to fire their arrows on Babylon and melt this bitch. Okay? And it's going to be utter chaos in the streets when it happens. So when they start with this draconian law, which they started with, there's the birth pains are started. So they're not going to turn back. All right? You know, it may slow down. I hope not, but it may slow down a little bit. But it's not going to turn back. All right? And as we always say, you know, it's the Northern Kingdom gets it first, then Judah gets it the worst. This thing is you know, the Northern Kingdom is finding out the hard way that they're not so-called white, they're not Caucasian, and that the so-called Negro is not their enemy. All right? Okay? They're finding that out the hard way, many of them. All right? And that you have one common enemy, which is against the Negro, Latino, Native American, who are, for the most part, the biblical Israelites here on earth today. All right? Let's get one last scripture and get ready to wrap this up. And it's Second Ezra. Um, 16, it says, for behold, the burning wrath of the great multitude is kindled over you, And they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. All right, they're going to offer people a way out, because all through all this chaos, they're going to at the end of this chaos, for those that are left alive that don't die in the melees and the starvation and the releasing of the diseases and stuff, those that survive are going to be offered to take the MOTB, the micro C-hip. All right. It says, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and reproach and trodden under foot. And there shall be in every place in the next cities a great insurrection upon those who fear the Lord. So those who actually fear the Lord, you know, they're going to actually be attacked by the powers that be, simply for who you are. So that's the thing. For those who believe in the Lord, even more so. But you have to understand, in the eyes of the Edomite, they know who the Israelites are. They know exactly who we are. And as long as you are alive, especially if you are a man, you are a problem. Because if you're a man, you can begot, impregnate a woman who's not an Israelite and bring forth another Israelite. All right, so they want to get rid of you. Okay, they want to get rid of you. And it says, they shall be like, verse 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So they will be going from house to house, place to place, destroying those who believe, or trying to. But here's the thing: once they put their hands on the elect, once they start putting their hands on the Lord's chosen this time, that's when the standard's going to get lifted up. So the only people that are really going to die are the martyrs, unfortunately. All right, there are martyrs who are of the elect who are going to die, but the 2/3. But even for them, this time, when they start putting their hands on the Israelites, which they have started, that standard is, so that means that the standard is near to being lifted up. It's about to go down in Babylon. It says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. And they're doing that right now. They're kicking in doors, separating families. And you already know, when they're inside those houses, man, they're pocketing jewelry and money and drugs and guns, whatever they find, they keep it for themselves. All right? I know this because I know law enforcement, because I have too many friends that are law enforcement. All right? And if you think they're all just some honest guys on the up and up, you're fooling yourself. All right? They find some shit that they want, they keeping that shit. All right? But this is 2 Ezra 15 and 14, and it reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and no one shall, one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. Those swords being guns. So you're going to have racial skirmishes, class skirmishes, political party skirmishes. They're all going to be pew-pewing each other. All right? For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right? Because, see, they're meeting people. They set up, even though this is orchestrated, right, and the age of provocateurs are out, leading the crowds to run into the stores and the graffiti and the destruction of property. You know, all it takes is one person to start breaking shit and the crowd joins them. One person to start throwing shit at the police and the crowd joins them. Those are agent provocateurs, man. All right? And it says, and a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid, and a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and great tribulation. This shit is about to go down, man. We all watched that reporter get shot in the leg with the rubber bullet. Well, pretty soon it's not going to be rubber bullets anymore. So with that, all praises going, honor be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekah, Kodash, Kwam, Yasharala, Abad, Babal.